Hello, my name is Janine Geisey, and today I'm going to be talking about the synthesis paper for my seniors, specifically about how to write your body paragraphs of your synthesis paper. Remember, this paper is supposed to be about your opinion on obedience to authority. And I've made a video previously about how to, after you're done reading all the articles, develop your opinion and figure out what your organization for your paper is going to be. So make sure you check that out if you haven't already. And if you haven't written your thesis yet, you definitely want to do that before you watch this video. And remember, your thesis is what your whole paper is trying to prove. And since the topic of your paper is your opinion on obedience to authority, that's what your thesis should say. It should say your opinion on obedience to authority. It's going to be the last sentence of your introduction. And some questions that you might want to ask yourself in order to help you develop your opinion on obedience to authority is, should people obey authority? Why should they or why should they not obey authority? Is there certain situations where they should obey authority? Are there certain situations where they should not? Come up with your stance on that topic. Maybe what are the pros and cons of obeying authority? And maybe how has this played out in history? Or maybe how did it play out in the Milgram experiment? Is it dangerous to obey authority according to Milgram? Think about that. So for example, as far as the wording, your thesis might start out, I believe that obedience to authority is necessary because, and then explain in general why you think that. Or maybe I believe people should not obey authority because, and then explain why. Obviously this is about your opinion, so it matters not to me which one you choose as long as you support it, and tell me why you think that. And I'm going to explain to you how to support your opinion here in a second. We already talked about when you're organizing your paper, you need to make sure that you have 3 body paragraphs that discuss all the articles at some point. And there's 2 suggestions that I had about organizing. And the first one was each paragraph could be about a different article since we're writing about 3 different articles. That might be the easiest way of doing it if that makes sense to you. In that case, you want each paragraph to say how it relates to your thesis. How that article relates to your thesis. Or each paragraph could be centered around one reason why you believe your opinion is valid. That's also a good way to organize if you have 3 different reasons why you're right. But remember, you still have to use all 3 of the articles. But you might be using each article in every paragraph, or you might be using a couple articles more than another. That's fine as long as you use all 3 at some point in the article and explain how they relate to your opinion. The first step when you're writing your body paragraphs is to create your claims. Remember, the claim is the first sentence of your paragraph. It's kind of like a mini thesis for that paragraph. It's going to tell what that specific paragraph is trying to prove. And it should be a little bit more specific than your thesis, because your thesis tells what the whole paper is proving. The claim is just what that specific paragraph is proving. It's a little bit more specific and focused. If you're doing 1 article per paragraph, it should mention the title of the article and what is your judgment about the article. Do you think that article is right? Is it not right? Why? And you'll explain what the main point of the article is as well, so that'll help you explain. So here's an example. In his article, Perils of Obedience, Milgram makes a convincing argument that the average person is willing to commit terrible acts if under the influence of an authority figure. That's a claim for a paragraph about the perils of obedience. Now, my lovelies, do not steal my claim. Put it in your own words. I want to tell you that would be plagiarism, so be careful. Don't look at my example too closely when you're making your own, because just changing a couple words does not originality make, so be careful with that. But if you're doing 1 reason per paragraph, your claim needs to introduce the reason. So it is important that citizens respect and obey authority because, and then give your reason. That would be if you're doing the 3 reasons and 1 reason per body paragraph. Once you have a claim for each body paragraph, then you know what the general gist of each of your paragraphs can be about. That's good. The second thing I would suggest is go ahead and add the summaries of your articles right now. You probably already have a summary of each of the articles we read because in our pre-reading or in our pre-writing, we read each of the articles and we came up with a summary and an opinion paragraph. I want you to shorten those summaries to just the main idea of the article, about 3 sentences, just to introduce it so that the reader knows what you're talking about. If your body paragraphs are each going to be about one article, your summary for that article should go right after your claim. Right after the claim of the paragraph that article is going to be about. Now, if your body paragraphs are about one reason each, you want to give your summary as you introduce an article for the first time. So that might mean that all your summaries are in the first body paragraph. That's okay. Just make sure that your whole paragraph is not just a summary. After you give your summary, you want to give an example, and that's the next part we're going to talk about. So after you're done putting your summaries in your body paragraphs, then you want to give evidence. You want to give examples from the articles that prove your point. You're probably going to have to reread the article in order to see which parts prove what you're trying to say. So you might, if it helps, go ahead and print out the articles and just highlight parts that prove your point. That would work. You need at least 3 examples per body paragraph. So as you're rereading the articles, I would highlight at least 9 to 12 examples. If you highlight more, then you can choose the best ones. It might be the best way to go. And try and do at least 2 examples per article, but you want 3 examples per body paragraph. So 9 examples in your paper total. Please only use 1 quote per body paragraph. You don't want to quote the whole time because it gets really hard to read and monotonous. You want to have 1 quote per body paragraph and the rest of your examples be paraphrasing, which just means putting it in your own words. When you're doing your quote, don't just drop it in randomly. Give a little intro to the quote. So, for example, in the article, just do what the pilot tells you. Dalrymple states, then give the quote, and then make sure you have an internal citation with each quote and each paraphrase. I have another video on internal citations, so make sure you check that one out. Then, once you give your examples, your evidence that proves your point, you're not done. You have to explain, you have to analyze the evidence. Remember, this whole paper is supposed to be about your opinion on obedience to authority. So you have to explain your opinion. You can't just drop in a quote and expect them to get it. You have to explain how does that evidence prove your point. Read your opinion paragraphs because there might be a lot of that you can just transplant into your paper, because that was the whole point of the opinion paragraphs, is to tell your opinion on the article. And remember, explain at length. Because the whole paper is supposed to be about your opinion, if you aren't telling us your opinion for most of the paper, it's not really fulfilling the assignment. We're talking each paragraph should be at least half you explaining your point. Seriously. I want to know what you think and why you think that. That's the whole point of the paper. Using the evidence to prove a point, not just reporting the evidence. Once you're done, make sure you reread your work. If you don't reread your work, you will make goofy mistakes that you could just fix. And the less mistakes you have, the less red marks you have in your paper, and the easier it'll be for you to revise that paper next. Look and make sure you don't have any awkward wording. Does your argument make sense? Check the rubric. Make sure you have each thing I've mentioned on the rubric, because if you don't, you know you're going to lose points. Are there any places where you could tell more or which can be cut out because they're off topic? Do you have at least 9 examples total? Did you cover all the articles? Does each example have an internal citation? Check your punctuation. Is the period after the internal citation, or did you put it before? Put it after. Did you add a summary of each article? Are they really, really short, or did you go on and on and on by accident? Make sure I would ask a buddy to read your work as well, somebody that's in this class that can help you kind of check for things you might not notice that you could fix real quick. Again, the more you do now, the easier it'll be to revise your paper later. I'm going to give you comments on your paper, but the better it is to begin with, the easier it'll be to revise. And then after you're done, watch the video on transitions and add transitions between paragraphs and between ideas, especially between your examples. That way, it makes it easier for the reader to follow your argument, and it makes it way more clear. All right, I hope that's been helpful to you. If you have any questions or if there's anything that I can do, please contact me, and I'll try and keep putting out videos to help you with your work.